Welcome to another episode of the Popcorn People Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we have a fun one for you guys. We are going to review Dune Part 2. We're also going to give our reaction to the SAG Award winners and then drop it with a little bit of a Drugstore June review as well. As always, I'm joined by my partner here, Mr. Don Fisher. How are you, buddy?
What's up? What's poppin', Colonels? Man, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I got some new ink yesterday. So I'm like flaking all over the damn place right now. Feels good. You know, I used to try to go every birthday, get one. There was a tradition when COVID happened, jacked all that up. So I'm playing catch up. Birthday was 2 weeks ago, technically. So yeah, it felt good. I think this was the first time my wife got to witness me getting a tattoo and watch me doze off into a slumber because, you know, contrary to most people's belief, tattoos aren't that bad. At least not for me. Not for me.
Not for me either. They don't hurt. They just don't. It's weird. And when I say this, people think I'm like maybe like serial killer tendencies. But like when I get tattooed, I love the way it feels. So it's like it feels really, really cool. So, all right. We do have a special guest with us this week. She's supported the show in the past. We've been wanting to get her on for a little bit. I figure what better way to come on the show than talk about Austin Butler's bald head than to have Kit Stone join us. How are you today?
So I'm good. That's
you
so
could have asked
funny.
for a better introduction. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, it caught me off guard for sure.
I could have said Austin Butler's girlfriend if you really wanted me to. I mean,
you know, listen, I just got on board the Austin Butler train. Okay. I mean, I like him. I think he's great, but Dune really, like, I'm into this, just this one. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be long term, but for right now, we're enjoying each other's company, and that's all I'll say about that.
I'll tell you what, it's pretty crazy though. Like, I mean, obviously hot at the gate with Elvis, but like his range is pretty wild because you had Dune Part 2, Bike Riders, which I've seen, and then Elvis, and then Masters of Air. It's like 4 totally different characters, and he's really kind of just really, you know, kind of laying it all out there, which is pretty awesome. I mean, I loved him in Elvis. I thought he should have won the Oscar because Brendan Fraser sucked in The Whale. But we won't live in the past too much, guys. Sorry. I'll elevate out of this conversation like he did in that movie. So, but
I think Austin Butler is doing the smart thing. I think for me, when an actor is stereotypically good looking, I'll say, like it's just in your face heartthrob, it's so important to do roles that require more than just looking good, you know, like require more than just being tall. You know, you got to do something a little different. And I think Dune Part 2 specifically was like the perfect role for him to do that.
It's not really fair to me though, because, you know, Butler is as you say, he's a very good looking guy. It really pisses you off when he just goes full on bald and is still a very good looking man. You know what I mean? It's like
no eyebrows.
No eyebrows. I know. I'm watching like I could do no eyebrows. I think I could do that. I think, you know, expressions are overrated. Like I could be into this, you know? So yeah, that's kind of crazy. Because all the people in there bald didn't look like him, and that's for sure.
That's true.
No, there was some ugly looking dude. But let's go ahead and do some news. All right. The ever-long award season has never stopped, and it won't stop for another, 2 weeks. We had the SAG Awards last night. We don't really talk much TV. I was kind of a little bit surprised to see Pedro Pascal win for The Last of Us, but pretty much everything else has been cut and dry on the film side of things. Oppenheimer won Cast in a Motion Picture. Lily Gladstone won Female Actor in a Leading Role, which is really, in my opinion, I think everybody's opinion, is the only race that's really kind of up for grabs between her and Emma Stone. Devon Joy continues her sweep. Cillian Murphy won for Male Actor, kind of closing that door. Robert Downey Jr. won for Supporting. I think that's pretty much all of the awards. Kit, thoughts on, first off, I think you watched the SAG Awards. So this is the first year it was on Netflix. I didn't watch it. Dom, did you watch?
Nope, I was not at home.
I forgot it was this damn new. Look at it. Do you see that, guys? That was it's a new thing on Mac, like Apple. Like if you do like things or whatever, it pops up. And
and it has like a thumbs up or like a balloon. Yeah, it's weird.
Like a little jazz hand. Maybe we'll get like some
blowing
up
that's
stuff.
Weird.
Yeah. But yeah, so the presentation. First off, the streaming was that any issues with that?
No issues with the streaming, and usually when I watch, because we kind of like watch and chat, with people on Twitter, and usually there's like a huge delay, but everybody seemed to be pretty much in sync, so that was good. The issues I have though is the people who were doing the red carpet, that was interesting, and I think the people that they pulled to the red carpet was also interesting. A lot of stars that we missed, people are watching on Twitter and they're like, wait, why didn't we get moments with them? Or we didn't even know these people were here. So that was one thing. And then because there are no commercials, Netflix decided to make their own commercials by having someone interview a winner like during the ceremony. But it was really awkward because they were not good interviews. And so it's just like, why are we doing this? Why are we stopping the momentum of the show to do this? And so that was weird. But other than that, it was fine. It was not amazing, but it was fine.
Yeah, I kind of worry about, Netflix entering that live TV realm. You know what I mean? They had an absolutely abysmal attempt of that last year with, they tried to do the Love is Blind reunion live, and that was an absolute disaster. I know they're ramping up their live stuff, but it's definitely, yeah. I mean, my big thing is this award season has gone on far too long. We need to get back to the days of when the Oscars are like maybe a week or two, because I think it's like the Grammys are the week after the Super Bowl, I think it is, or the week before the Super Bowl. One of those. I think it should be after.
Yeah.
So like it should be like Super Bowl, Grammys, Oscars. Like that should be like the 3 Sundays back to back to back. I think that would be like perfect in my opinion. And then the SAG Awards and the Spirit Awards and all these awards can go back to January where they belong. Because like we're literally about to go into the 3rd month of the year of new movies.
Right.
That theoretically, like the movie that we're going to talk about today is like, it's going to be in the Oscars conversation. It's horrible to say that because we're not even done with this Oscar. Like people like, oh my God, stop talking about it. Well, this is technically, it's going to be there.
I mean, it's like as much as I loved a lot of films from last year, I'm so tired of talking about them. I have nothing more to say. People are like, well, what do you think about this person winning? I don't, I don't have anything else to say. and to that point, like someone, mentioned like, Robert Downey Jr.'s speech was very short and concise last night. And they were like, he should have said more. And I'm like, what else is there to say? I mean, when you've won continuously, it's like, I don't have anybody new to thank. I don't have anything else to say. Should I tell you what I'm wearing? Because that's it. Like, that's all I got, And if he does take home the Oscar, which most people believe that he will, I'm sure he's saving like another speech then. But like, there ain't nothing new, y'all. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Poor Cillian Murphy. He don't even like to leave the house, and here he is having to get up on stage over and over. Like, it's just that's it. It's tiring. I thought we were done. I just thought we were done.
Yeah. And what makes it worse is like the Oscars are, and that's the thing though. A lot of these people like Divine, like she's giving great speeches, but like that Oscar speech is going to be monumental. But it's like, damn, it's like, how many more speeches do I got to hear the same? I don't know. It's people like Christopher Nolan. I mean, another one who's won literally every director award imaginable to man. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of exhausting. But
Divine, she won tonight. Divine won a Spirit Award, and she was like, Paul and Dominic, I don't know what left to say to you that I haven't already said. That's it.
There's only so many times you can be motivational, and then you're just like, I'm sorry. I said the best thing 2 weeks ago. I don't know what else I got for you.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's all I've got on the SAG Awards. I don't even really want to talk about it much. It's nothing. I'm just not excited about the Oscars because we've seen some. It's just the award season drought. I mean, that to me is just really. It's just so damn long. I mean, if you think about it, it's really a 15-month season because it starts in January. technically, and then it ends in March. And now, like, obviously when people get all mad because of, you talk about award season too early or whatever, but it's just part of our gig. That's part of what we do. You know what I mean? Because I will ask you guys later, like, hey, what do you think of Dune's Oscar chances? Because I mean, it's going to be a player, period.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and dive right into Dune Part 2.
Man, look, I didn't have my thing pulled up. But there was, when Dune Part 1 came out, there was an overwhelming amount of people who didn't love the film. Now we knew that it was going to be grand in scale. We knew it had one of the best directors working. However, the reception just wasn't what he expected or anybody else working on it expected, partially because we all mainly watched it at home instead of in the theaters. But there was a huge surge in anticipation for Part 2, because with Part 1 being such storytelling, we had to set up lore and prophecy and things of that sort, that Part 2 had to be good. They couldn't afford for it not to be good. But give me the synopsis. Paul Atreides unites with Chani and the Fremen while seeking revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the universe, he must prevent a terrible future only he can foresee. Since you're the guest, Kit, we'll start with you. Over your thoughts on the film.
I mean, I was one of the few that actually did like the first movie, but I likened this Dune and Dune Part 2 to a trilogy that I also recently saw for the first time, which was Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that Dune 1 was very much the first Star Wars, just Star Wars. I did not care for it, so I could understand why people didn't like the first Dune. I understand the need to set the foundation. You're introducing us to this world. You are telling us who is who. You're laying out the lay of the land and how the politics and the governments work of this world. I get all that, but it was very boring and it was very slow. And right when it starts to cook, it's over, right? Dune Part 2 is definitely Empire Strikes Back, because it starts right from the beginning and it just goes continuously. The only thing is it's in the beginning for me, it's just like going. Just things are just happening. And I'm like, okay, it's a lot happening, but I can't really, it's like trying to ride the worm of the story. Like I can't really grab on, but then slowly you kind of sink into the story and everything just you kind of flow with it. I love that we got more of Zendaya, obviously, because we did not. And I think for me, Zendaya and Rebecca Ferguson and, Florence, she was there. She'll definitely play a bigger part in the next one because she was kind of just there now. But the other actor too, oh gosh, I forgot her name. It was just like a lot of more women characters, which I really appreciated in this one. And then Austin Butler gets on the scene and I'm just like, oh, okay. So this is great. I think that I left the theater feeling like, now that's a movie. I just felt, and it, even though it's like still not over, it still felt complete. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at first. Like that's really good. Timothée Chalamet really surprised me. Like I know he can act, but I have not seen everything that he's been in. Right? I liked Wonka. I thought it was fine, even though it was parts were like an SNL skit. But I enjoyed him on SNL too. But I really enjoyed seeing these characters do such an array of emotions, in this one film, happy and love and angry and sad. Rebecca Ferguson was creepy AF with that voice. but it was just so, it's just like everything, every character is moving, like their arcs are moving, and you get a sense of all of that in this one film. And so I thought it was absolutely great. There's no way that, I mean, I just don't know how people can not like it. However, I've seen Rotten Tomatoes and some people do not. So I don't know. But I really enjoyed it a lot. Javier Bardem's really good too.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because obviously I didn't hate Dune 1. I thought Dune 1 was a technical masterpiece. Okay. I just thought there was absolutely no story. And I'm not a person that reads books. And my biggest proponent of films that are based about books is I think you have to entice audiences that are non-book readers and book readers. And for me personally, I didn't feel like it did that with the story. However, this is like on a different realm. Like this movie, there's so many layers to it that blew me away. I was very not anti Timothy Chalamet. I wasn't anti Timothy Chalamet. I just didn't know if he was just another flavor of the month. You know what I mean? We had a lot of flavor of the months that are not good actors. However, he kind of changed it for me whenever I saw Bones and All. I thought he was magnificent in that. I thought Wonka, I loved him in Wonka. I thought he was great. I thought he played the role perfectly. But this performance, he gave, and I want to say it like this. I'm not saying it's the best performance. I'm saying it's one of the best performances on this kind of scale of a movie that we've ever seen, like a blockbuster movie. I think that this is one of the best performances I think I've ever seen in that, because you have this incredible arc. Again, 2 hours and 45 minutes. I was ready to poke my eyes out just at the thought of that. I had a terrible day at work, and it was 2 hours of work. I'm going to go to the movie. I'm going to fall asleep. But I was captivated from go. And you have his character, and you see the progressions throughout the entire film. Just leading up to that final scene with him, like, holy shit. And again, we're not going to talk about spoilers here, but it's just the elevation of this character, the way that it's written, the way that you see it, the way we have this little love story that you're really rooting for as well on the side, like you're really rooting for. And then you kind of see the demise of that, not on purpose, but by the way things have to be, type of thing. This entire cast, Austin Butler, I absolutely creepy. You know what I mean? Like this, it was a terror. I wish we would have got a little bit more. I do wish we'd have got a little bit more, but that's it's okay. You know what I mean? I felt like his presence was felt, and he delivered. And I second the emotion about Rebecca Ferguson. That there was like a jump scare all the time. That noise would come out like, holy. Like that was I think I even texted you this. That was a better jump scare in that than most of the horror movies these days. And I think it was supposed to be on purpose or not. You know what I mean? Technically speaking, like the set pieces, the costume design, the production, it's very early in the year. Last year, the first movie that I gave 5 stars was Past Lives, and that was sometime in July, I think, when I saw it. We're February, whatever date it is, and I gave Dune 2 Part 2 5 stars. It's a spectacle. I can't believe I say this. Even like when I saw Oppenheimer, I was like, man, it felt long to me. And I was like, I really loved it, but it felt long. I was like, I dread rewatching that movie. This one, I left the theater and bought another ticket. Just, I wasn't going to go see it. I was like, if it's good. No, I'm ready to go see it again. Like, I can't wait to see this again.
Yeah. I mean, same. And just like you, like I got to the theater because I have to drive pretty far to where my screenings are. And I sat down, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I got there early and I was just like, oh my gosh, how am I'm going to go to sleep. And when it was over, I was just like so happy that I made the trip. And I instantly was texting people, are you going to go see Dune? I'll go see it with you. Don't worry about it. You going to go see Dune? I'll go see it with you. It's okay. Well, I'll go see it together because I really want to see it. I'm so excited that they're doing the fan screenings so that I can talk about it in detail. But yeah, like you said, like it took on a different level with this movie. And also there were moments where I thought the movie's sure to end at this point. And then we had another 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, well, it's definitely going to end now. And then it turns into like this 2 towers situation. And there's this huge battle, and it also solidifies my theory that sequels are just naturally better than the original films. And I understand people are like, well, you gotta, set the foundation. And I'm like, I mean, sometimes, but they're just better. Like The Dark Knight, Two Towers, Empire Strikes Back, Dune Part 2. Like they're just better than their, predecessors. And maybe it's because
we get Two Towers. Is that Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
it is.
Is that the third one?
No, it's the second one.
Oh man, those ones were terrible.
Oh no,
Lord of the Rings movies are so bad. So bad.
No, they're
so boring. Dumb.
Are you kidding? No, not The Hobbit. Not The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings. What are we doing?
I refuse to watch the third Lord of the Rings because the first two were so bad. I just.
We're gonna have to talk about this offline because
my phone's about to be blowing up after this one. All right, Dom. The floor is yours. Dune Part 2. What did you think?
I mean, yeah, I have to echo a lot of the sentiments you both said. There is something about when people think of like sci-fi, there's like an air of cheesiness that turns people off. There's something off-putting, but somehow Denis is able to like make this movie basically a war film. It has that same dramatic tone, the seriousness, and you'll sprinkle in a little bit of levity with like Javier. I feel like he wasn't even trying to be funny, but the timing was so good that it made his lines hilarious. And then just the balance of, your religious zealots and the politics and this family drama. And then of course you have this, the white savior prophecy, which a lot of people are clinging on to, but I think that they have to, part of it, you have to remember when the book was written. The author who wrote this, a lot of times people are not intentionally trying to make a white savior story. They're just white writing a story, so the person's going to look like them. That's just, I mean, people can debate about it, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you don't know about other cultures in depth, you're not going to write that character because you just don't know and you don't want to get it wrong. However, I do love that with Denis taking over, you do have this with the Fremen, this mix of Islam and Buddhism and all these different types of religions and cultures meshed together. That really does, like, it's instant. As soon as you see it, you know what you're looking at and where the ideas come from. But yeah, I mean, the performances, it looked amazing. I mean, this is one of those movies that if you don't see it in IMAX, you're doing yourself a disservice. The VFX, I mean, some of the stuff just looked unreal. It's one of those ones where when you look at it, you go, it had to be made, right? Like someone made this. There's no way this was created on a computer, because they were able, unlike some of the CGI we see with Marvel and DC, they were able to take their time and make it look great. So yeah, everything that people are missing from the superhero films, I feel like this film makes up for it. It's not, even though it's not attached, but I feel like it is kind of in that same realm, because what things that are taking place are somewhat superhuman. But under Rebecca Ferguson, that was the first thing I said when I came out of the theater. I said, she is terrifying. That shit was crazy. And I think it might be more terrifying than some of the horror movies I watched recently, sadly. But I feel like that's what gives it that balance, because it wasn't something you expected, and the story has you guessing the entire time. What person is righteous? Who's doing the right thing for the right reasons? Is prophecy supposed to be fulfilled? Is something that is foreseen, is it good, or is it just supposed to happen? And to pull from Star Wars, there is that balance. You can always, I think Freddie Prinze Jr. said it because he had a talk with, I think, Dave Filoni, George Lucas, somebody, and you can kind of tell who's always going to win, because there has to be a balance of light and dark. So if dark happens to win in one movie, light has to win in the second movie, because it's the balance of the Force. And I feel like a lot of time that's very similar in most sci-fi and in real world a lot of the times. So there's a lot to take away with the film. It's almost hard to say really anything in detail because everything is a spoiler. Every single thing that we really want to dive into is a spoiler. But I will say I really wish we did get to see a lot more of Batista and Butler together. I really liked that back and forth. I don't exactly know if they were brothers or if they were just both happened to be nephews of Baron Harkonnen. But that I think they could have leaned on that story a little bit longer just to give us some more of this, like how sadistic these guys are. But I do think the storytelling was great. This balance of going back and forth between the love story, the prophecy, the fear of the other side and what's taking place. I mean, I don't know how any other films are going to measure up after this film. I really don't. Like, I truly believe that. Like, after I left, I was like, nothing's going to, at least in that realm of superhero, sci-fi, anything fantastical, you're not going to be able to beat it. You're just not. Sorry. For the rest of the year, you're going to have to reach that bar. And I gave it a 10 out of 10. And I don't foresee there being too many more films that I rank that high, given what we know that's going to come out. So yeah, I mean, you got to see it in theaters.
I think for me, like when you say something like that too, is like it's crazy because I think that's where Denis gets he's not going to get enough credit for me, because even if you look back on time at some of the bigger blockbusters, there have been great Marvel movies. We'll all admit that there have been some great storytelling stuff. It's not easy though. It's not easy to make a film on this scale and still have a script that is so good. You know what I mean? Like it's normally you sacrifice one to get the other. Yeah. And that to me is something that is even more impressive than just about anything about the film, whether you're looking at visually, acting wise. It's not easy to balance a love story, a politically charged film, a religiously charged, like there's a lot of things that go on in between the fine lines that I'm not going to speak about, but like they're there. Like all of these different layers of this story are within this, and it's all written so good. Like it blows my mind that you can capture that. Also, though, on the flip side, it goes to show and pushes the boundaries for the bigger scale movies. You can have both. You just have to have great writing. And that's where a lot of films lose that in these bigger budgets. A lot of the great movies we've seen of recent are smaller budget. But to me, Dune Part 2 stands up over the last 4 years, this part of this decade, just about against any film that's come out, in my opinion. I maybe not number one, but I do think that it stands on that Mount Rushmore of other films that have come out in the last 4 years that I think it's great. And it's a beautiful film. So yeah. Kit?
Yeah, I agree. And to go back to something Dom said earlier, it's not that we haven't had super good superhero or comic book films or even action films, but when you go to that type of a film, like Dune Part 2, it's like literally the actual word epic. Like it's this epic story, and you feel like you've experienced this epic story, right? And so I'm thinking about the films that are coming up, and I'm like, no, Godzilla versus Kong is not. It's not quite gonna do Dune Part 2, right? And we know that these movies are not the same, right? They're not the same. You know, these Titan films are not the same as Dune Part 2. But I think it's also maybe the quality versus quantity, I think, is what a little bit of what's happening in these other franchises or these other MCU and things like that. It's just like they're churning out, but they're not churning out quality. And part of what I think is going to help Dune Part 2 is also this anticipation that we've had and this waiting that we've had for this. And then you deliver on what we've been anticipating. And it's very hard to do that. Like we were waiting, I know, for the Marvels for a long time. And the movie was fun, but it wasn't, what it could have been, right? It didn't have the support that it could have had either. And so then you get it and it doesn't meet the expectation that you had because they sacrificed so many other things just to put it out. And thankfully that we didn't have that problem with Dune Part 2. But I can't say a lot because of spoilers, but I'm curious to what people will say at the end of it all. And I definitely felt more of the white savior argument in this film, I will say, especially with the appearance of is it Harnickens?
I think it's Harkonnen.
Harkonnens, there we go. See, I always Harkonnens, especially with the appearance of all of them, right? And then you see, you'll really only see color with the Fremen. So you can feel it more, but it's not necessarily a bad thing when you know who wins, I guess, when you can foresee who wins or how they might win or whatever. So I mean, I get it though, but I think I don't think there's enough things to complain about in this movie, even for people who, I just thought, like, there's not enough to not like it. There's not, like, where can you go? Right. You can't do it with the performances. You can't do it with the technical. Can't do it with the editing. You cannot do it with the sound. That score is amazing. And we got more worms. Like, that's... I was like, could I ride a worm? I don't know. I don't think I could. I think I would die, seriously, trying to ride a worm. But I think you can't really say anything about that. I think it's really good. Really good.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's like, I am the king of being able to find nitpicks in films because it's not that I never want to. I don't ever really want to give something 5 stars unless and I'm very rare to the occasion where I'll give something 5 stars after one watch. But I sat there and I drove home and I was just like, I don't think there's not one thing I would like. I couldn't think of anything in my mind that I would have changed to make it better. You know what I mean? Like it just blew me away. Period. Like it's a spectacle. It's something monumental. And the perfect word, it's epic. Like it's an epic filmed on just this high scale that it's simply wonderful. Like I just can't. Like I just don't even.
And what I had talked to Austin Burke about afterwards is that me and him were talking about it potentially makes the first film better because you do see what all that, because a lot of times you get a whole bunch of the foundation and then you get like a blah payoff, and this one you get the most payoff you could ever expect to get. So if you
the bar's raised for 3 though.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Like
I don't know.
I thought about that too. I was like, oh, like you
I don't know what they can do.
I don't know. I mean, I love Florence Pugh, so we'll get more of her. There's another actress that's in there that I'm sure people have seen in press, but I don't want to say her name because I don't want to spoil anything, but we'll get more of her. And then Leah Sadu, is that her? I can never remember how to pronounce her name, but her character arc I think is gonna be crazy in the next one too. So a lot to look forward to.
For sure. I'm looking forward to it. All right, we're going to review another movie, and then we'll just close it out by talking about some stuff we watched recently that we liked or probably didn't like, because I got a lot to say about that too. So,
all right. Drugstore June, independent film starring Esther Povitsky and a ton of other comedians. June is a wannabe influencer who's juggling multiple problems. Her parents want her to move out. Her ex-boyfriend accuses her of stalking him, and 2 detectives think she may be involved in the robbery of a local pharmacy. I listen to a lot of podcasts that Esther is on, whether it's Trash Tuesday, the one that she does with Rick Glassman. She's with Bobby Lee a lot. They do their own thing. So I've been hearing about this film for a while. And Esther has a very particular brand of comedy where it's a lot of her personal life, but it's always amped up a little bit to where you always kind of feel like maybe is she the crazy ex-girlfriend all the time. And then kind of like this, she is kind of a wannabe influencer, even though she's been famous for I don't know how long. So it's always very interesting how that plays out. But this movie, I've been hearing it been gassed up for a while. It didn't do everything that I wanted it to do. It's kind of fun. However, I will say I watched it with my wife, and she was like, "When's something gonna happen?" And I was like, I don't know. But with a lot of comedians having their hands in it, there is a lot of good jokes. I think it's written pretty well. But the only thing for me is that so the story arc, there's two main story arcs, and they don't pick one that they really want to focus on. So this back and forth between the two, it suffers. They both suffer because they can't decide which one is the more prominent thing that they want to focus on, whether it's the robbery or really her trying to figure her life out. I mean, it's got a huge cast, or huge in the sense of social media. You have Trevor Lawrence, you have Bad Baby, you got Bobby Lee, you got Andrew Santino, you have Slink, who a lot of people know as Black Jesus. So there's a lot of cool people in the movie. It just doesn't hit. I don't by any means think it's a bad movie. I think it is kind of in the realm of like a Napoleon Dynamite, where you're like, what year is this supposed to be? Like, it's recent because the talk of going live and TikTok, things like that. But you don't really know the city. You don't really know how old she's supposed to be either, because she is one of the people like many of us who millennials who we all are a certain age, but we look like 5 to 6 years younger. But yeah, I think it's unfortunately a little too long for a movie that's not super long, only because they didn't figure out what they wanted to do completely. Maybe if there was one writer versus two, it might have been a little bit better. But I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was funny enough. But coming from her mind, because this is very much her life incorporated into this story, with the ex-boyfriend being the name of her actual fiance, and that's part of the storyline of her stalking her ex-boyfriend comes directly from her life. I thought there'd be a lot more there, but it just kind of fell flat. What are your thoughts, Ricky?
Yeah, so I feel like it's the type of movie that if you watch it and you don't listen to the podcast, or you don't know who Pavitsky is, you're just on the outside looking in. Like it's that. I mean, because again, you take a lot of what she does in her life and she adds it to the story. I thought for sure that it would be a lot funnier. It's funny. It is funny. It kind of reminds me. I thought about this when I watched this, and I thought about the same thing with Drive Away Dolls. I thought it was funny, but I felt like it was going to be funnier. Yeah. And I just felt like that, you have to be in on the joke to watch the movie. And you touched on something perfectly here. There's just so many side quests that really just take you off of this journey. And it gets overwhelming. You just don't like, and then of course I don't mind like seeing all these people pop up. I love seeing Bill Burr jump in there. I love seeing him. Obviously he's a producer in the film, but like, not every character in the movie has their own, like it has a big role, but each of them get their own little moment that I really enjoyed. But you get to a point where you're like, all right, I get it. Can we just get to the story and kind of element of this character? And it just felt like a bad version of her podcast. Like that's exactly, you know what I mean? Like that's exactly what it felt like. I felt the same way a few years ago when I watched the Bill Burr special. It was like, if you listen to his podcast, you get the jokes that were told on stage. You've heard them 1,000 times, and it just is kind of redundant and boring. I did like it. I thought it was fine. I think that it has a playability for those who are in this environment of Povitsky and all of her people, you'll probably enjoy it. It's not perfect, it's not great, it's watchable, but yeah, it's forgettable. I was kind of expecting a lot more from it. So, but yeah, other than that, yeah, I don't even know. Look at that. See, look at that. Leo's in the crib. Yeah. So, oh, hang on. I pressed the wrong button, guys. Got to press buttons. I got to press multiple buttons here. I'm not a multiple button guy here, guys. All right. Let's jump into watch recommendations, and I've got a vent about a show that I'm watching that makes me want to kill myself. So. Sorry, Kit. First, we'll start off with you. Is there you've been watching as of late that really just
your segues? I cannot. Okay. Gosh, I watched the new horror film that is in select theaters. Is it nationwide or stop motion? It's an IFC horror film. I recommend it. Horror's hit and miss these days. We got to kick it off. And I think that stop motion, while the story might lack a little bit, I think the creep factor is definitely there if you like horror, because little dolls and little animated horror things are very creepy. And this is a feature debut for the director. And I think that it's clear that they have an eye for what horror is. And it's really good. It's really good. What have I been watching? I think I've been like dragging my feet through a couple of series, but let's see. Gosh. What's coming out? Oh, I'm going to be finishing Invincible Part 2 soon. So that'll be coming. And the Gentleman series is coming.
Is that? When's that come out?
This week. Netflix.
What is it called?
The Gentleman. Isn't it called The Gentleman?
I think so.
It's Guy Ritchie. It's a sequel to The Gentleman.
What the fuck?
It's a sequel to The Gentleman, and it's also called The Gentleman. So it's like, okay. Oh, next week. Not this week, next week. So
let's see here. Is that March or the end of this month?
March 7th.
Okay, here we go. I'm just getting ready. I was pulling up March's calendar. I was trying to. Okay, I didn't know it correlated with each other. I wrote.
Me neither. I didn't, and that's why I paused, because I was like, oh, I guess I should watch The Gentleman then, because it's a sequel to the movie, which is, Oh, I watched the Avatar series.
Oh, okay. How was that?
I liked it, but I liked it without having a significant attachment to the animated series. So I think that I was able to enjoy it in a way that people who are really connected to the source material can't. Because when I told a group of people that I liked it, they were like, "No, you didn't." I'm like, "I did. I thought it was great." I think that Netflix actually, surprisingly, has done a really great job with these live action anime series. I think One Piece was really good. Avatar is good, not as good as One Piece. The dialogue can be very elementary in some cases, where it's like, but that's what we do because we stick together. And it's like, oh my gosh, there are moments like that. But I think the action is there. I think the talent is really good. And I think, we have to remember that not all the way they do these series are not necessarily for adults, but for children, kind of like the Percy Jackson series was, aged down, and it's a little more accessible for that age group, which I think is okay. So I think it's good. I would recommend it.
Don, what have you been watching?
Well, since we we got this Critics' Choice Super Awards coming up, there was one or two things that I hadn't watched in its entirety. So a couple of days ago, I finally finished. I guess I had to rewatch it, so I didn't want to start from the middle. But I finally rewatched Tetris, which, I didn't hate it. I thought it was cool, but it kind of felt the same way to me like Blackberry, and I didn't love Blackberry. I recently, me and Ricky, we saw Driveway Dolls. It's cool. It's not the. It didn't have the. Like he said. It's kind of like Drugstore June in a sense where it set up such kind of a high expectation as it was going along, and then it kind of fizzles out the end. But I mean, I think it's still worth a watch. But the favorite thing I've watched recently is a Vince Staples show on Netflix. That shit is so fucking good, and it sucks because they had already put it up there when you go to click on it that it's like Atlanta meets Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I can't really think of a better comparison than what they already put up there. The show is good. It's like an exaggerated version of Vince's life. And for those who don't know who Vince Staples is, go check out his music because he is one of the most underrated artists over the past like 10 years. He's been doing it for a long time. His interviews are some of the best interviews I've ever seen because he is such a quick-witted, intelligent guy. Like the interviews are, you can ask him one question and just let him talk, and it'll be the most entertaining thing you watch on YouTube that day. But the show is fantastic. It's 5 episodes. The episodes are around like 40-ish minutes. And it's one of those ones where it's you want more, but maybe them leaving you wanting more is better for if they do decide to do a season 2 because the show is that good.
All right, let's see. What have I watched recently? Let's talk about the stuff that I like. I watched The Dynasty, the New England Patriots, the entire show. The first 2 episodes dropped on like the 17th, 24th, another 7 drops. Like there's 10 episodes. It's one of the best docuseries about sports that I think I've ever watched. That's highly recommend checking that out. Now let's talk about some things that I wouldn't recommend to my worst enemy. Constellation dropped on Apple TV Plus. It's god awful. Like It is abysmal. I'm disappointed in Apple TV because they really have great TV. Like they have some of the best TV shows, and I love watching them. This one, I'm having to do weekly recaps, and I literally just am like, do I just drink myself and watch them? Because like I don't know, they're terrible. It's like it's so bad. And speaking of bad, I've talked about this plenty of times on this show. It's a show called Death and Other Details. It's on Hulu. We're about to be on the finale. Thank fuck we are, because this is by far, look at me. If you watch this show and you like it, I don't think I could trust your opinion anymore. It's literally one of the worst TVs. It's like Knives Out if it was written, I don't even know, by a homeless man. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. It's so bad. It's like, and just when you think that you've seen the worst part of the show, you watch the next episode. It's that bad. Like I've never in my life seen a show so bad on a consistent week-to-week basis. Let's see here. Constellation terrible. I'm really liking Tokyo Vice. It was a show that I wasn't sure on. Watching that, really enjoying that. Let's see here. Jenny Slate dropped a stand-up special on Prime Video. Really liked that as well. I thought it was funny. Not great, but it was very good. The Second Best Hospital in the Galaxy dropped on Prime Video. It was okay. Like, it's very weird. Very Rick and Morty. I'm not a Rick and Morty type of guy, so maybe that's why I didn't like it. So if that's kind of your jam, then you'll probably love that. And I think that's about it. I think, oh my God, Life and Beth season 2 came out. If you see season 1, I really enjoyed season 2 as well. But my God, Constellation, Death and Other Details. Just when I think I'm like, man, I really love watching TV, you just see some bad. There's nothing worse than having to recap bad TV. There's not. It's not possible.
That's true.
Shout out to Prime though, because they take risks. They put out stuff that's very niche, and they don't do any kind of advertising for anything. But I do like they have a lot of stuff on there. If you just go on there and fish around, you might find a little gem. And like Kit, I am gonna review Invincible Part 2. I'm gonna start watching it this week. I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
Speaking of absolutely abysmal, I watched the fucking Tyler Perry movie. Oh my!
No, I was literally about to say, because I was looking at my letterbox just now, and I was like, "Oh, I watched Mean Girls the musical." I didn't even say that. I watched that. That was, I actually thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. And then I saw that I watched that movie of whose name I shall not speak. And I was like, I'm not even going to bring it up. I just...
Is it that bad? I
Because
keep hearing people talk about
we
it.
made it number
If
one.
it's
We
that
made it
bad,
number
it's
one.
worse.
Yeah, because now everybody wants to see it, and we made it number one for a day or two. And I think this is one of those situations where I'm like, you know what? Go ahead and use AI, Tyler Perry. It might come out better. It might come out better. Like, just go ahead. It's okay. Like, you're not...
acting is so
we're not really worried about you using it. You know what I mean? Like, you can go ahead. However, I agree with Fran Drescher actually at the SAG Awards, because, you know, he decided to like not put money over here and use AI. And it's like, but you have the opportunity to give jobs and you don't want to. And he's been having that opportunity. Everything is written, directed, produced by him. And I'm like, that's not the flex you think it is, sir. Like, it's not. We know. And the thing about it is, he has done films that are like, okay, not so bad. Like, The Family That Prays is probably one of my favorites of his, I think. And, you know, when he did a Jazz Man's Blues, it wasn't like amazing, but you can see that there's other things there.
Yeah.
Right. This was just...
I can't. I don't have enough.
Is it that? Because I always hear like, so a lot of the... I've never been the biggest Tyler Perry fan. I've liked some stuff. It's not for me, because if I want what you're giving, I can just go to my family reunion every couple of years and see the exact same thing play out. So is it like that he leans too much into the messiness and disregards like the story?
It's a Lifetime movie.
It's not even, no, because Ricky said this to me the other day, and I was like, no, bite your tongue, because Lifetime movies are good, okay? I'll turn on a Lifetime movie on a Sunday afternoon after church, no problem. You know what I mean? Lifetime movies are still good. They're very formulaic. You know what you're going to get, but they're good. They stick to their brand. But there are some where it's like, that was good. I didn't know that was going to happen at the end, or, you know, Psycho Mother-in-Law, you know, it's, you know, the girl's going to be crazy, whatever. Tyler Perry, but the movie is not good. The acting is not very good. The story, things don't make sense. You know, like, you're a lawyer and you're not sure if you're going to take this person's case, yet you have their case file. You don't get to go and get people's case files and you not even represent. Like, just little things like that just drive me crazy, you know? And then randomly there'll be this really intense or, you know, sex scene, and you're just like, what? Did we do all of this just to get here? Because, like, is that what the goal was? It's just, the thing is, he has the ability to do better, but this is what he gives us because it works, and we take it.
Look, Tyler, all right, what's up?
That's the thing. He wants to do it all himself, and it's like, but no.
Funny. It's funny that you said that, because like I literally went to the letterbox of the movie, and it's literally like, that's it. Just like crew, Tyler Perry, crew. That's it. That's all it says is crew. Tyler Perry.
What is he trying to prove by doing that? Like, what is his beef with working with other people? I don't understand.
I mean, I get that. Look, okay, I don't like working with people. I mean, I don't like people either. But, bro, have somebody proofread these scripts for you, okay?
But if you were a billionaire, producer, okay, and you had the ability to pour into other creatives to kind of build this, you know, system, you would do that.
Yeah, especially when you got your own studio in your backyard, basically. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So, all right, folks, that's it for this week's episode of the Popcorn People Podcast. Kit, thank you for joining us. Tell our audience where you can find you on the Twitter and where you write and all that other good stuff in between.
Oh, well, when I finish a review, you can find me on HughWatchedIt.com. That's HUE. Yeah, HUE, watchedit.com. And that's all the socials too. And also by Kit Stone, all the socials as well. And that's me.
All right, folks. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. We will be back next week. I don't really know what we're going to talk about because we already have seen. Maybe we'll just talk about Dune again. I don't know. We'll just talk about Dune.
Yeah, because then you can go spoiler heavy.
Is that? No. Are we seeing that? I'm trying to think. Is that dog movie Saturday?
Yeah, Arthur and Me, or Arthur and
Arthur the
King. I don't know.
I thought it was. I had a screening invite for that, and I thought it was this like King Arthur, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know they were doing another King Arthur. And I looked, and I was like, no.
Yeah. I said the same thing. I was like, maybe I'll watch it. I'm not really excited to watch it, but I don't know. I've put myself through worse, so. Yeah,
me too. Mea culpa. All right. Constellation, Death and Other Details, all those other things. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.